with Arnold Dean. Hot Talk, great guests. Weeknights at 6:15 from WTIC, Hartford.
BBC Radio, Canada's public broadcast.
Try Carter's Little Liver Pill. Good advice.
Good mornings only on KCMO Kansas City. It's 8 o'clock.
When you're tuned to CDS Radio.
This is the DX Central from the Static Podcast.
From Studio B of the North Shore Studios in Mandeville, Louisiana.
And welcome to another edition of the DX Central from the Static Podcast. I'm your host, Lloyd Van Horn, here in North Shore Studios in Studio B, where we just wrapped up another episode of DX Central Live, and that's what we're bringing to you here for DX Central Relive, the audio from our Friday night live stream. You can catch that at dxcentrallive.com. It was a jam-packed episode, as always. This first hour, we talked about some gear, some new gear that's both arrived and some new gear that's on the way here for us at DX Central to test out. One that's already here is an amplifier, a High-Z amplifier for a low-noise 35-foot vertical antenna for AMDX. We're really hoping that we can have that in place and ready to premiere that on next week's edition of DX Central Live. But we talk a bit about the amplifier and what all we'll be doing with that. Also, some gear on the way. We have two portables, a pair of SI4732 chip portables. Now, one of these is a little pocket radio. Tiny little guy, and then the other one is the ATS-25 Max decoder. Been seeing a lot of both of these being used on social media, so we wanted to give them a try. So one of those should be here this weekend. The other is on its way, so hopefully we'll have that soon to be able to test out and show you guys how well they do or don't work. I'm not sure. We also launched our brand new challenge, our new frequency challenge, 580 to 600 kilohertz in hour number 1. In hour number 2, we talk about our new dashboard, actually. It might have been in hour 1. We talked about our new dashboard for the frequency challenge. And this is a new data analysis dashboard that's all contained in a self-contained little widget. And no more loading individual charts and things like that on the web page and slowing things down. This is a much, much faster load, much, much more reliable load. So, and it gives us more data and more ways to interact with that data. And this is all setting us up for our big reveal next week of our all-season data analysis project. This is where we take all the accumulated data, 32,000 plus logs we've received since season 1, right? We're now in season 5, so almost 4 seasons and counting of data we've been gathering here at the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge and the Summer DX Challenges. And we're making that data available to DXers to be able to comb through and use it to find targets and most heard stations and all that kind of stuff. So we're setting that up by releasing the new dashboard this week, because it's going to be in the same kind of format. We'll be premiering that next week on DX Central Live. Also in hour 2, we talk about feedlines, not just coax, not just 50 ohm, 75 ohm coax. There's twisted pair, there's Cat 5, Cat 6. So there's a lot of different options out there that we can use, and some of those give us a lower noise floor than just standard coax. And it's something that, like for me, has always been kind of an afterthought. So we talk about some things to consider as you're considering your feedline for your antenna projects. And we also take a look in hour 2 at the challenge frequencies and some possible target stations that you can try for. So a lot to get to, a lot of DX in this one as well. So without further ado, sit back, relax, take us with you wherever you might be going today. It's time for DX Central Relive here on the From the Static Podcast from DX Central.
From the Gulf South
to your corner of the world,
this is DX Central Live.
Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
From the North Shore Studios here in Studio A in Mandeville, Louisiana, it is DX Central Live, Season 6, Episode number 7. Welcome, my friends. So glad to have you here. And joining us yet again for another night of DX. Live DX conversation, topics, some tips, some tricks, some fun. Yeah, we're going to do it all tonight, as we normally do. We're ending one challenge tonight, 9:10 to 9:30. We're going to say bye-bye, 9:10, 9:30. And we're going to launch a brand new one later on in our first hour. And we're going to be also at the same time introducing a new dashboard for you all for our weekly challenges. that will be starting with this week, starting with our brand new challenge we're launching. You'll have this new analytics dashboard that we're going to be launching for our every week challenge. And then next week, we're going to launch the big boy. Some of you know our patrons are already having some fun with this right now. That we've been working on this massive all seasons data analysis project. And this is so that we take all of the accumulated data from the medium wave frequency challenge and we make it available so that you can pour through it. You can do some research. You can say, all right, how many stations have been heard from North Dakota? What's the most commonly heard station in North Dakota? How many stations have been heard on 910 to 930? Our challenge frequencies. Maybe you want to do some research on the challenge frequencies to identify some targets. Maybe you want to say, okay, I want to see for stations from Columbia, where are those stations being heard from, right, in the U.S.? Well, this new data analysis website is going to be able to tell you all of that and a whole lot more. It's very, very in-depth. We're only going to be adding to it as we go along. So next week, we're going to launch that one out and release it to everyone. But for right now, our patrons, patreon.com/DXCentral, for those who are interested, our patrons are doing beta testing on it right now. And so they're getting a chance to kind of play around with it a little bit and see what it's all about. And so that same format that we were working on for that dashboard, I was like, well, I'm just going to use this for the weekly challenge as well. So you guys will get a chance to see a sneak peek of kind of how it looks tonight as we launch into our next weekly challenge. But the actual all seasons analysis tool will be something that we'll be releasing next week, as long as we don't run into any snafus during our beta testing. All of this was to give you access to more data, more intel, more research opportunities, more resources, and a faster challenge website. A lot of the tables and charts and things that I've been using were going through a plugin, and they were kind of bogging down a little bit sometimes. And there was a lot of processing that was happening on the hosting server side that I've been using. I'm actually in chat with them right now, but upgrading my hosting package to a higher package so you guys get a faster site and everything else. Because I know we had some errors earlier this evening, the too many request errors, and got those cleared out. And now I'm upgrading our plan so we can get rid of that, hopefully. But also just to give you a faster site, a more reliable site, a more mobile-friendly site. I've been testing this on my mobile device, on my cell phone, and it works great. So yeah, I'll be giving you guys the new weekly challenge dashboard, and we do the new weekly challenge announcement later on in the first hour. And then next week we launch the big data analysis project, which is going to be huge. Also for tonight, we got some new gear already that has come in. We have this guy. This is our V3A High-Z Amplifier from VE3PSZ. Mr. Green up in Ontario sent this our way. We ordered it, and it's now arrived along with the bias T for it as well. So we're going to be plugging this in hopefully this weekend if I can get everything ready, and getting our new 35-foot low noise vertical up in the air. And so actually the antenna's already up in the air. I just have to get a ground connection going and plug that sucker into it and get the feed lines all ran here in the shack, and we'll be good to go. So this is going to be a fun little project for us to test out this low noise vertical, see how it does. You guys know I've been using the mini whip now for a couple of years. I want to see how this 35-foot vertical works, and then I'll let you know once we get that up and running. And hopefully, I'm thinking I'm going to put it on the Kiwi as one of the options on the Kiwi so that you can try it out too. You can also test it out from wherever you might be. Some other things we're going to talk about tonight. Some new gear that's still on the way. We have 2 new radios on their way. Some of you may have heard of I think it's the SI 4732 chips, and these are like the ATS 25 little radios. I have one of those and little mini pocket radio version of that on the way. I think the pocket one will be here tomorrow, and then the ATS is coming from AliExpress, so it's going to be probably a little bit before that one comes in, but those are on their way. So I want to see how those do. I've been seeing some people posting on social media with some logs. They were capturing some stuff on those radios, so I just wanted to kind of see how they did for my side. And with some of the antennas that we have here and the antenna farm. So we'll be talking a bit about that. And then in our second hour, We're going to be talking a bit about feedlines, 50 ohm, 75 ohm, coax, twisted pair, Cat 5, Cat 6. We're going to be talking about some different options you have to feed your antennas with different options, and which ones may work better on certain conditions and so forth. And when do you need to go for that direct berry jacket and things along those lines. So we'll be talking about that, and we'll also be looking at our new challenge frequencies, some possible target stations for those. And also, I did want to touch on some other stuff. I saw some talk on social media about linking up or matching up on air with online streams during a sporting event, and why that may not always be the best thing to do. So we're going to talk about that as well. But first, we're going to get started with some live DX. So this DX session is brought to you by the National Radio Club, nationalradioclub.org. Where you want to go for more information about becoming a member. Oops, we've got the wrong window here, don't we? Let me come back to this. You guys don't want to sit and see me chat with our rep for our hosting stuff here. Let's do this. Go down. I forgot last week we changed the screen. Where is the screen? Screen, top screen. There it is. Okay, so we're going to start off here on the Kiwi SDR. This is the Kiwi CAS, a 25 by 72 foot CAS. We're on 910. We're pointing due south. So guess who you're probably here? San Andres y Providencia. Let's take a look. Hey, Mamacita, I saw you this time. There's somebody else in here, too.
Lo anglo, mi nombre es Lewis, se debería pronunciar Luis, por ejemplo. El doctor Miquel Alonso con su libro El valor de la intuición, cómo comprenderla, entrenarla y usarla con acierto. Y qué tema más apasionante, porque si algo hacemos o echamos mano cuando algo nos libera, un instinto, una decisión a tiempo, leía la historia del doctor Miquel, que ahorita no la va a contar, cambiar de hacer a justo a tiempo, decirle la intuición nos salvó, nos salvamos, etcétera. Doctor Miquel, qué valor tenerlo a usted conmigo aquí. Bienvenido, buenas noches.
Pues muchas gracias, yo estoy encantado de estar aquí contigo, Lewis, hablando de la intuición y de lo maravilloso que es todo el comportamiento de nuestro cerebro, sobre todo este comportamiento inconsciente y automático. Así que nada, muchas gracias por invitarme.
No, y esa es la mejor introducción que usted pudo haber hecho. Claro que sí, porque ¿de dónde viene la intuición? Entonces empecemos, si parece bien, para decir qué es la intuición o qué no es la intuición.
Muy bien, pues bueno, la intuición es un proceso que es automático, que es muy rápido, que es inconsciente, y con ese proceso nuestro cerebro es capaz de extraer con precisión conclusiones que son probabilísticas y siempre enfocado a un hazlo o no lo hagas. Es decir, la intuición nos manda siempre un mensaje que tiene que ver con una acción, con hacer o dejar de hacer una acción. Entonces la intuición está en nuestro cerebro, es científica, o sea, es real, y se basa principalmente en todo, o sea, se alimenta de todo lo que hemos aprendido de forma implícita y de forma explícita durante toda nuestra vida y de nuestras experiencias. He puesto el énfasis en esa implícita y explícita porque aprendemos muchas cosas de forma reglada, digámoslo así, que estamos estudiándolas, aprendiéndolas, etcétera, pero aprendemos también muchas otras sin darnos cuenta. Aprendemos el comportamiento de las personas, aprendemos lo que ocurre cuando hago A y B, ocurre C. Mi cerebro toma notas. Mira, es todo curioso. Y lo almacena. Entonces, de todo eso se alimenta la intuición. ¿Y qué no es? No es solo emociones, no es instinto. El instinto es algo congénito, es algo de nacimiento, ¿no? O sea, podemos tener un instinto sexual de nacimiento, podemos tener, por ejemplo, miedo a la oscuridad, miedo a las serpientes o a los ruidos, castigos de noche en un bosque, ¿no? Sí. Pero no es, la intuición es algo que tiene mucha más literatura, contundencia, es como nuestro Big Data particular, ¿no? Y el que tiramos para decidir.
Esa intuición me parece que es como demasiado cercana a esos instintos, es quizá como el margen más angosto que existe entre lo que es una cosa y lo que es la otra cosa, porque no claramente profundizamos para empezar un poquito por ahí. Instinto es algo como que está condicionado bien en nuestra genética, no depende de nosotros, sino de miles de generaciones anteriores, más o menos.
Eso es. O sea, cuando hay tortuguitas, cuando nacen tienen el instinto de salir corriendo para encontrar antes de que se las estampe un ave que anda por ahí, ¿no? Y nosotros tenemos nuestros propios instintos, ¿no? Que durante muchos, pues durante miles y miles de años, pues nos han ido haciendo que desarrollemos.
All right, I think. I think that's going to probably do it for this DX session. Well, for the live one here, let's take a look and see what we heard. Let's go check out our where's the bottom one? This one. Boom, boom. I don't think I ever added that, did I? I guess not. Sorry, guys. I'm chatting with support on our website and also at the same time trying to get us over on another screen here. You're going to see this blank. That's on purpose. Let's see. I'm just going to do this. Boop. You're getting a peek behind the veil, as it were, here. Okay, now I got it. Let's go take a look and see what we captured here at the top of the hour on 9:20 and 9:30 on our East Super Loop. And we're going to rewind this back over to right here.
Little Rock, a cumulus media station.
What would happen to them if they had to play their back years?
AARN Little Rock, a
There we go.
cumulus media station.
And then 9:30. Nothing on that one. Okay. So we'll come back to those here in a bit. And we'll keep checking 9:10 and 9:20 or 9:30 as we go along here before we get to our next challenge frequencies, which we'll be announcing later on this hour. Let me go ahead and get this up on camera one. There we go, camera one. Hey guys, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a bit about some of the new gear that we have recently gotten. The vertical antenna we're about to put in the air, hopefully tomorrow. The new gear that's on the way. We're going to show you guys those radios and talk a little bit about what we're seeing online about them and so forth. And of course, we got to get to your shout outs. Go to dxchallenges.com/shout out. Now, you don't have to be a registered member of our website, dxchallenges.com, to be able to do those shout outs, but we highly recommend that you do. That way you can take advantage of all of the fun challenges that we have, including the ones here on 9:10 and 9:30 we've been doing this week, and the ones we have coming later on this hour when we announce our next challenge for next week. So don't go anywhere, my friends. More DX Central Live is heading your way right after this.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Just a radio and me. Now screens on the walls, lost in endless ecstasy. Tuning waves with these frequencies so clear. Now apps and feeds they tease, overwhelming me with fear. Lost in frequency. Too much tech I see. Dial back the clock, please. Simpler times for me.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
The old ways fade away.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. We bring you live DX conversation, tips, tricks, and a whole lot more. And of course, your shout outs as well. Which we'll be getting to those here in just a few moments. Taking a look at what you guys have been hearing. Now, I noticed this week there were some good conditions to our friends up north looking down south. So we had the big week, the week before, Aurora conditions. Everybody was looking down south. It was amazing. It was great DX. That kind of dried up here a little bit. We didn't see, I mean, there was some, and there was a little bit of, I guess, that kind of shallow Central American enhancement. I heard Honduras last night on 910 Radio Suyapa. But from when I was able to check, at least, it wasn't like super, super crazy like it had been the week before. Nor even close. Like I wasn't hearing Monumental. I wasn't hearing a lot of the Colombians and stuff like that. But our friends to the north, you guys were hearing some good stuff. And I'm seeing that in the shout outs too. So another good week for a lot of you, which is awesome. I'm all about it. Whenever you guys can get those conditions down into Latin America that you don't normally have. I mean, it's pretty regular here, right? Because we're closer. I'm 1,000 miles closer to Colombia than Jacob is up in Minnesota, right? So, you know, it's a little more common down here for us to get into those places. So when you guys up north have a chance to get into Colombia and Central America and deeper into South America, that just makes me so happy. So let's go ahead and start with some of those shout outs right now.
Shout out loud, hear the call for every big or small, from AM to FM, from sea to sea. We celebrate the ones who slag the ID. Shout out loud, let it be known, you're never DXing all alone. Through the static we found our way. Shout outs making waves today.
All right, so we're going to get to your shout-outs. You can get your shout-outs at dxchallenges.com/shout-out. Let us know what you've been hearing on AM, FM, long wave. I saw some NDB DX going on this week. There was some Southern enhancement down on long wave, which is awesome. You don't get to see that very often, so that was really cool. So yeah, anything you've been getting, ham radio, shortwave, whatever, we want to hear it. Send those in, dxchallenges.com/shout-out, and we'll celebrate together. We'll blow that horn of victory, and we'll have ourselves some fun. All right, let's start with our friend, Mr. Greg Caniglio, executive producer of the show here, one of our patrons. Great conditions continued. I had a great session on Saturday night, November the 15th. I have not listened to the recordings after this yet. This shout-out contains shout-outs to other DXers who helped me that night on Slack. Awesome. See? I'm loving the camaraderie that we're having on the Slack channel. People helping each other out and getting that DX. The evening featured multiple new catches from the Carolinas and Georgia, all of which I won't list, but two notable ones that were surprising and all alone were WCLA 1470 in Clayton, Georgia, and or is that Claxton? WWHM 1290 in Sumter, South Carolina. So I used to live near Clayton, but I think there is a Claxton actually. Now that I think about it, I don't remember there being a 1470 in Clayton. I may be wrong. He said Claxton. For the record, I put in the Clayton because I was trying to think that might have been a typo, but I'd be wrong. I might be wrong on that one. My new favorite logging though was thanks to Jacob Hammond at TICBDL 570 San Jose, Costa Rica. Ha ha ha! Very brief audio parallel to Jacob's Costa Rica Kiwi. Let's try saying that 5 times fast. Costa Rica Kiwi recording. Okay. This is about 2,300 miles. Does anyone have a transmitter location? It's not listed on medium wave list. I will check. See what I have on my notes. Also, for our friend Greg, and I'm checking on this one because I think it's a little. Let's see. Yeah, Greg, if you're watching the stream, I'm going to give you the calls here on this one. YNLD 600 Managua, Nicaragua. Another exciting one. Second of that country, 2,199 miles. That's La Nueva Radio. Yeah. I love the way they do their imaging, man. I would work there. I would work at that station just to continue to do the imaging, and I'd learn Spanish just to do the imaging. That's all I'd want to do. XECPR 660 in Felipe Carrillo Puerto, 728 miles. First logging of Quintana Roo. I remember this time. I didn't call it Quintana Roo. It's Quintana Roo. And that is XECPR Radio Chan Santa Cruz. We're going to probably hear him at some point tonight, maybe. In Colombia, new loggings were HJVP 620, HJDM 830, and HJFV Radio Viva 780. Radio Viva Pasto. Bringing that country total here to 14 Colombians. I remember when I first started the X in the 90s, and I heard my first 2 Colombians, I was like, I'm hooked. I got 2 Colombians, man. That's amazing. And I heard Honduran right after that. It was like, stamp it. I'm officially hooked. And now, because of SDR and some of the other technology that we have available with some of these cool antennas, we're getting 10, 14, 20, 30 Colombians, and I'm here for it, man. It's awesome. Last but certainly not least, thanks to Earl Higgins for a Slack tip. I found a weak KTNN 660, all alone at times, but very weak, with alternative country music and traditional Navajo songs. Man, those stick out like a sore thumb, don't they? Parallel to the web stream, Arizona is a new U.S. state for me here. So we got a couple things to get you in here, Greg. First, obviously, we have to go ahead and saw some logs for your new logs. Let's see. Mr. Airhorn. You got it. It's the horn of victory, baby. We have to celebrate when we win something like this. And every log is a win. We've also got a new U.S. state in here from Arizona. New country form, so we're going to stamp a passport. This is usually the kind of shout out I hold to the end because it's a bigger one. But man, this is a great way to get it started. I like this energy, getting it started right off with a whole bunch of stuff. This is nice. A new Latin American station because we had Colombia in there and Honduras in there, or Nicaragua rather in there. Costa Rica. And a new Estado de Mexico, and not the Estado de Mexico, but a new Estado de Mexico. Well done, man. Well done. Lots of shout out stuff in there. That was definitely a shout out worthy week for you, man. So congratulations to Greg, friend of the channel and one of our wonderful patrons. Aiden in Michigan checks in. So this one threw me in for a loop. Let me explain. So I heard Shania Twain's "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." So naturally I was expecting it to be a country station. That's one of those crossover hits, right? I checked other country stations that I haven't logged before and they weren't playing it. I checked the country station I get all the time on this frequency. They weren't playing it either. I thought to myself, maybe XEX plays some English hits. They do. When they're in their W radio. During the daytime, they're more Deportes sports and stuff. But at night, sure enough, it matched. This was my first Mexican station in support that I heard commercials in Spanish till XEX cut out just before midnight in Mexico City. Was replaced by the more familiar French sound of Quebec. Man, that's a nice little dichotomy. You got two different languages on a frequency, and neither one of them were English from the United States. CKAC there on 730. Meaning unfortunately, I missed the national anthem. We'll get you. You can get it. You'll get there. At least I got it. The recordings were samples of the commercials in Spanish that I wanted to share, so we're going to play some of those from Aiden. So before we do that, though, new log for our friend Aiden. XEX 730 Mexico City. Also, for him, that is a new country. So we're also stamping the passport for him as well. Yeah. And a new country for him was Mexico. That was his first Mexican station. You know what that means? Yeah. New Estado de Mexico. Tell you what, these new glasses, it is so much easier to read. I've got two pair. I got a third pair on order. I'll be here next week. But man, it's so much better than those other pair that I had. I can actually read now. Now, sometimes you'll see me doing this because these are progressives. I've reached that age. But yeah, I can actually read now. Also, new Latin American station for you. It's just nice to be able to actually read. It still helps to zoom in a little bit sometimes, but like right now, I'm like, that's crystal clear. That's like a laser beam. Let's check out some of these clips that he's got here. Let's see the first one. He said these are some of the commercials he heard in Spanish. So let's check out this first one. And I think this is a dot move, isn't it? Methinks that be a DX or XH data D808 or similar. Looks like the D808 screen. Well done, man. Let me see. He's got another clip in here as well. Let's see what that one looks like. Aiden's in Michigan. No city listed, just Michigan. Well, it may have the city. I don't have it on here. There you go, Aiden. Got those commercials in there. Appreciate you being there, man. We'll give you another blow of the horn of victory here. Let's see how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a big one. 5, 6. That's a big one. Kaz got a bunch in here this week. All right, Kaz. Let's do 2 more, and then we'll save the rest for the next round. David in Georgia. David Harden. Tried to log stage for the DX Challenge, not much luck. Did log to be JCW in Johnson City, Tennessee on 910, to be GKA in Atlanta on 920, and to be FXJ in Jacksonville, none of which were new, but hey, it's nice to get reacquainted, make sure the formats are still the same, just double checking. That's another good thing about these frequency challenges. It's not just about getting new ones in the log, although that's a big part of it. Another thing is just refamiliarizing ourselves and touching base with stations that we might go, oh, I know that's 920. That's going to be KERN in Little Rock. I'm not even going to bother going and look at that frequency. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe they're there. Maybe they're not. Maybe they change formats. Maybe there's something different. You got to know sometimes you got to reacclimate yourself with your band. It's important to do. But I did mention that I would go after that 4 station on 1080 that he said last week. The D layer has been very thin during the daytime. It's been allowing me to log WFTD in Marietta, Georgia. This is the only high-powered station in the Atlanta area that I had not previously logged. There were no announcements or commercials, just a brief top-of-the-hour ID. Now for the big one. I managed logging at WCEO, Columbia, South Carolina on 840 at 1:08 in the afternoon. Distance of 216 miles. It pays to DX AM in the daytime. This is my most distant daytime DX. My man, this time of the year, yes, it does. Yes, it does pay to do AM DX in the daytime this time of the year, and even later into like December. This is a fantastic time of the year. One of my fondest memories of my early days of DX was I would have those times when I was off from school because of like Christmas break or whatever. And I would sit down and I would do a daytime band scan. I'd get up super early in the morning, go upstairs to the shack, and I'd have my sheet, and I would just go frequency by frequency. I'd notate what I heard. And sometimes there were 1, 2, 3 stations there. Now, this was the 90s. Noise was lower. I was in the mountains, not many stations on the band, so it was super quiet anyway. So it was a nice little exercise. Now, it's still worthwhile. I think every one of us need to do that. And if your location where you are is noisy during the daytime because you're like in a residential area like I am, get yourself out, do some DX elsewhere. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about when we look at our 2 radios that we have on order here. So let's see. He got a new log, so we're going to give him the log saw. And we're also going to give him, he got a distance record, new skill, something along those lines, new gear in here, right? Or no, it was the daytime logging. That's what it was. So we're going to give you, I got to come up with a nice little like catch-all video here. I might do that. But in the meantime, no, not that one. This one, we're going to call it a goal. A goal of achieving a new station that you had been chasing after because you wanted to go after that 1080 station. You got them. And you need to take advantage of that thin D layer because of this time of the year. And you got yourself Columbia from Georgia in the middle of the afternoon. Isn't that great? I used to love that daytime DX. And you hear those stations in the middle of the day that you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm hearing them in the middle of the day. That's awesome. This time of the year, man. It gets fun. We may have to revisit our daytime challenge again in December. Well done, my friend, and we blow the horn of victory for you, David. Appreciate you being in there. Our friend Earl Higgins in Missouri got himself some DX. Let's talk about what Earl had this week. All this was this week, and all new logs for Earl. Take a deep breath. Here we go. 830 La Locura XEITE in Mexico. WLCR Kentucky 1040. WSGI Tennessee on 1100. KREH Texas 900. Also on 900 kilohertz. WKDA in Tennessee. WAOS in Georgia on 1600. Oh, those guys. WETR Tennessee 760, WLBL Wisconsin on 930 in Auburndale, Wisconsin. That's a new Wisconsin log for him, so we're going to get the knife out and get ready to do a little cheese cutting. KYND 1520 in Texas, KYFR 920 in Iowa, and 930 KLUP in Texas. So he had a good week on the challenge, got a couple new logs in there on the challenge frequencies, and we're going to cut the cheese now. And, of course, we're going to do the log saw for him as well. All that loggy goodness. This is the time of the year when you're going to be stocking up on those logs. Cold outside, you're going to have some logs. So this is the time to stock up. Well done, Earl, my friend. Fantastic catch of DX your way. Coming up next, we got Rick, we've got Stuart, we've got Jacob, we've got Kaz. So we're going to get to you guys here in our next hour with our second round of shout outs. And I'm looking at Kaz, man. Seriously, that's a haul. And when you get to someone like Kaz's stature of DX, you know, the new ones don't come around that often. And when they do, they don't come around in batches like this. It's like, I got a new one this month. You know, I got a new one this summer or this winter. I got two new ones this season. Let's become more and more rare. So that's an impressive batch. We'll get to those here in the second hour. Let's talk a bit about some gear. So I mentioned here that we have a new piece of gear that's already come in here. This is the V3A amplifier. This is a high-Z amplifier for a low-noise vertical antenna. And so two things this is doing. This is the matching transformer for us to get the impedance match from the vertical antenna to our feed line. And this is also the amplifier, so it's going to boost the signal a little bit. So we're going to pair this with a piece of 14 gauge stranded THHN wire that is 35 feet long, thereabouts, give or take 6 inches or so. I've got it already up in the air. I got a hook or a carabiner that I have up in the one of my trees. It was actually holding my second mini whip antenna. And so I got that carabiner up, and then I went in today and I tied some rope. I made a little loop at the top of my vertical antenna, tied a little bit of rope at the top and made a loop, and then put some heat shrink tubing around that to keep that nice and stable, and then put some rope in through that loop. And then on the other end of that rope, tied another carabiner and connected those two carabiners, and then we set that back up in the tree. And that's now sitting up at 35 feet. And so tomorrow I'm going to go do all the work that I need to get done to finish this off. So here where I am, I have learned we don't have a great ground for ground rods and whatnot. So our friend Jeff Immel, oops, not that one. There we go. Notorious. Jeff was talking here a while back about a chemical ground. And this is something I was talking with him on the Slack channel earlier about it, that he used when he was in the deserts of California, and it worked really, really well for him. And what it basically is normally you have a ground rod, you stick that in the ground deep as you can, basically, and the ground itself is nice and moist and conductive, and it gives you a good ground. Well, underneath the topsoil here is all sand, because this used to be underwater, like a lot of water, where I am in Mandeville. And so, oh, wow. So with this chemical ground, what you're basically doing is you're compensating for the poor ground that you have by giving it a boost, but kind of giving it a little bit of some vitamins. So you take a 1-inch diameter copper pipe, in this case about 2 to 5 feet long, depending on what you can find, and you take one end of that copper pipe and you hammer it down to kind of make a little wedge. So it's kind of pointed kind of like this, right? That's what you're going to basically have, is something kind of like that. So that gives you a nice puncture point to drive it into the ground. And then once you've got that in there, you'll drill every couple of every so often. You'll drill some little 1/4-inch holes up the length of the pipe, and this is, you'll see why here in a minute. So you'll have some holes kind of around the pipe. Drive that in. You have the wedge closed end on the bottom. You'll wedge that down into the ground. Drive it in. And then you fill that up with salt, rock salt, table salt, whatever. Just fill it up with salt and then water. And then you're going to pour all that water in there and make it nice and filled. Those holes are going to let some of that seep into the ground. And now you've got salt water in your ground. Okay. That's a really good ground. And then you do that for a couple of days until you build up this nice ground around the ground rod. And you've basically created this chemical ground rod. And then obviously the rain's going to come in. It's going to leach down into that. It's going to refill that every once in a while. So it's going to provide a really good ground contact for me to have for this vertical antenna, this low noise vertical. So we have the mini whip up. It's about 45 feet in the air, but it's just the mini whip. This is a 35-foot long piece of wire. So very excited to see how this will work. We're going to pair it with our Kiwi and put it on one of the ports on the Kiwi with an eye on eventually putting it on one of our other SDRs. I don't know which one. One of the SDRs here, and seeing how it does. So I'll keep you guys posted. I'd hope to have it in the air tonight so we could actually test it out tonight, but no such luck. So hopefully next week we can have that to show off for you guys and let you guys have a chance to play around with it on the Kiwi. The next thing I want to talk about is the other gear that's on the way. This is, we have a couple of portable radios on the way. Now, I go back here. Where do they go? Here, let me go back on camera. So we have a couple portables that we really like here. This is the TEF. This is the DP666 portable here, mainly as an FM rig. It's not really great at AM. And then we have, a lot of you guys also like the DX286, the Quotes and Codson. This is the DX286, a phenomenal AM DX rig and a really, really good FM as well. So this has been what I've been kind of working with now for a while from a portable standpoint, in addition to like my AirSpy HF Plus Discovery that I take portable out with a little loop antenna or whatever and do little portable operations. I like getting my DX outside. I like getting away from noise. I like being in nature anyway. I like going camping and stuff like that. So this is a great way to kind of combine all that. But I had been seeing on social media some folks who were posting some reports, some logs using a couple of different radios, and I'd heard people using these radios, and some people like them, some people don't. I'm usually not one to kind of like, I tend to not always, how am I going to say this? I tend to not always believe what everyone says about a piece of gear. Just because I don't know the context of how they're using it. I don't know the context of their band. I don't know anything about how they've actually been using it, what kind of antenna they're pairing with it. There's so many different factors to it. I can't always trust what I'm hearing from somebody. When I'm doing a review, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. Okay, here's what I'm using for my antennas. Here's what my band looks like. Here's the testing conditions that I did. I'm going to give you all the details so that you have an idea of the context in which the testing was done, so you can use that if you're going to make a decision about, is this radio for me or not? I'm always going to try to give that to you. But in the context of a log, you're not going to always get that, right? So that's totally fine. So when I hear people talk about these radios, it's not always favorable, but I keep seeing them. And the videos that I'm seeing, they seem good. They seem decent enough. Again, some of these have compromised antennas attached to them. So that's far more important to me than the radio. Is if the radio with my antennas, I know what to expect from my antennas. I use them all the time on all the different SDRs that we have here. So from that standpoint, I know what to expect from my antenna, what it's going to produce. Is the radio going to enhance that or inhibit that? That's what I want to know. Is the radio going to enhance my experience with an antenna or inhibit it and prevent DX that should be there because the antenna is giving me that DX, but is the radio doing something to prohibit me from being able to hear that? So that's what I'm going to be looking for when I test out these two radios. The first one here is the ATS-25 Max decoder. And we're going to open this link up here. This is on AliExpress, and I'll drop the link here for those who are interested. Now, I have not tested these out yet. So I can't tell you if it's any good or not because it's on the way. It's not here yet. But this is the radio here. You see, I didn't pay $87.65. It was less than that. Well, actually, it might have been because I split up into 4 because I had that PayPal. Paying 4 on PayPal is the best way to get new gear. So I do it all the time. But you'll see here, it's kind of a quasi little SDR. It looks like, I think that's a touch screen that you see there. You got your dial. You can see the kind of the charging port here. So that is, that's the ATS-25 Max decoder. FM RDS, also medium wave, long wave, short wave. It's got DSP in it. So I want to see. It's got a battery in there. I don't know what it has for an FM or rather an AM antenna. I don't know really to expect there. But that is the first one that I ordered. It'll be here hopefully in the next week or two. It's coming from AliExpress, so who knows. But very interested in hooking that up to like one of our Kaz's or this new vertical maybe, or like a W6LVP loop and just doing some tests and see how it works. The second one that I ordered, I saw this one and it was such a, look at this little guy. Look at his little antenna. I mean, or this little radio. You gotta have one of those. Anytime I see a little pocket radio like this, you got me. I'm buying it. I'm gonna buy it. As long as it's not like $300 or something, I'm gonna buy it. It gives you that little loop antenna, which I've heard about, but I'll test it out and see how it works. But I'm also gonna use it with my gear, Big Ken, again, because I know what to expect with my gear, my antennas. So I'm gonna test it out with my antennas and see what I should be getting. But I mean, you gotta do this little guy, right? And this one is from Amazon. This will be here tomorrow. So let me show you this one here. This is the one I got from Amazon. Oh, it's going to make me do this here. Here we go. So this is a little pocket radio. See, it's $42. So they got blue, they got a green, they got a black one and the black two. I'm not really sure the difference. Oh, the black two has AirPods. I don't need those. I'm glad I got the black one. So yeah, this is just a little teeny guy. I mean, how can you not? You see that and you're like, dude, I want that radio. I want to try that out to be able to have that in my luggage or it's a pocket radio. So I'm going to put it in my pocket and try it out and see how it works. So I'll let you guys know. Hopefully next week, at least one of those will be in. We can kind of play around a little bit. Maybe I'll have some video that I can shoot. I don't know. We'll see what comes up. But just thought I would share those. Those are some pieces of gear that are on the way that we can hopefully get a chance to do some DX with. Real quick before we get to our next frequency challenge and the next DX session, I did want to touch on this. I ran out of time last week to talk about Aurora DX on FM because that happened. So this was something that came in. Let me pull up. I want to get this over. I want to say it was here. Yeah, that looks right. So there was some Auroral FMDX that came with this solar storm that we had last week. Last week. Trying to think. It seems like it's not long. So this is not something that I get a lot of opportunities to do here where I am, because let's face it, there's no overhead aurora here in Southeast Louisiana ever that I know of. Maybe the Carrington event or Carrington event. If we get another one of those, DXing will be the last thing on our mind. There's probably nothing to DX. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to do a whole lot of work on any kind of on Auroral FMDX. We don't get that here. So with that in mind, if you are someone who is interested in Auroral DX and on FM, specifically on FM, you see some of the conditions here. We have Washington State hearing over to Minnesota and Wisconsin, or Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota. So it kind of acts like sporadic E a little bit. And it's the sound is more, from what I remember, it's more fluttery, it's more kind of distorted. It's not as crystal clear as you would have with a sporadic E opening, but you kind of generally point your antenna to the north, and you might get some stuff off to the side of it or to that northern direction, but it diffuses those signals. So where typically with a normal like sporadic E, it's a refraction that's kind of bending that signal back down to earth, right? Well, in auroral conditions, it does that, but it's also diffusing the signal. That's why you get some of that fluttery, kind of distorted kind of sound on some of these. So that's my understanding based off of what I heard on this. Our friends Nick and Bryce at the VHFDX podcast did a fantastic interview with Bill Hepburn. Yes, that Bill Hepburn. And he talked about Auroral FMDX and talked about how to do it. And talks about solar storms and their impacts on FMDX, focus on geomagnetic storms that produce auroras, provides insights into KP and BZ indices, which are used to monitor geomagnetic activity and predict aurora conditions. So this is, if you are someone who lives in a more northern latitude than I, and especially here in a couple of weeks when that sunspot region that just gave us those big storms, when it circles back around and is earthward facing again, we might get some more of that. That tends to happen. So you'll want to be ready for that if it does. So I highly suggest you go up to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcasts from, wherever, I'm assuming here, wherever you listen to the DX Central from the Static podcast. Go check out the VHFDX podcast as well. And it's episode 20, 2024 DX season kickoff and May Aurora opening chat with Bill Hepburn, VHFDX podcast. I'm going to put the Spotify link in here. But again, if that's not where you get your podcasts, then you'll want to go find the VHFDX podcast there. Give them a follow. You're going to want to follow this thing anyway. Subscribe to it, follow, like it, whatever, because Nick and Bryce do a phenomenal job. So definitely, if you're even kind of slightly interested in FMDX, you should be subscribed to this podcast. But this particular edition, you learn all about Aurora FMDX. And Bill is the guy to do it because he's been doing it for years and years and years and years. So I highly recommend, because we had some questions about FM Aurora DX hit during the event. Now, again, now where I am, I don't have enough context. I don't have enough experience with it to be able to provide much information or much help other than what I've already said. I mean, that's my knowledge of it. That's the limitation of my knowledge. Bill goes into much more detail. And so I highly suggest that you go check out this edition of the podcast, and he can, you'll hear the explanation he gives about this Aurora FM condition, because I promise you there is a chance when that sunspot region circles back around and it's earthward facing, if it's still together, if it's still got its stuff together, we could see some more. Sometimes they're stronger, sometimes they're not. Sometimes there's nothing at all, but we could see some more of this. So if you are up in the northern, I would say north of Arkansas, you should be ready for some potential auroral conditions here in a couple of weeks when this circles back around. Obviously, that also has some implications for what we have here on AM as well. But for FM, if you're wanting to get in on some FM Aurora DX, you'll learn about it from the podcast. All right. A new challenge awaits. You guys ready? So we're going back down low, 580 to 600. And I used that data analysis tool that I told you about. I used that to help me determine what frequencies we were going to do. I wanted to look, and I said, okay, I want to see where are we the least covered, right? The lowest percentages of coverage. That also has a good country count. I'm not doing the expanded band here, right? We've pretty much beat that one pretty good. We might revisit it again, but we've done it like 2 or 3 times now, so we've pretty beat that one pretty well. We might come back to it, though. But I wanted to get good enough coverage, have enough states and countries to keep people interested in having some good exotic DX to chase after. 580, 590, 600 are fantastic frequencies for that. We're going to look at those numbers here in a bit. But I did want to put your attention here to our new challenge dashboard. Okay. Let me bring this up. So this is, let me put up on screen. Make sure it worked. Yeah, it did. So this is the challenge page you guys have been looking at all week, the 910 to 930, right? If you go there right now and refresh, and you may have to hit Control on your keyboard when you click the refresh button to kind of force it to go look. But if you do that, scroll down, you're going to see our new data analysis dashboard. This is the new format that we're going to be using from now on for our frequency challenge dashboard, or at least until I get bored with it. And this is going to be also the format that our big data analysis project for the all-season data analysis project takes place, or takes the shape of. And so let me give you kind of the lay of the land here. Off of here, so I don't keep doing that with the wind. You'll see at the top here we have these boxes for filters. So you can filter based on any of these things. So if you want to look at just your own logs, and you want to see, okay, I just want to see how many logs I have. Well, I've got three unique stations, just me. My furthest reception was 1,341 miles. I've heard 3 different countries in 1 state, right? And then I go over here and I delete that out and hit enter. And now I've refreshed that dashboard to be everybody again. Let's say I'm looking for a particular station, HJMY. 2 different logs have been submitted. 2,300 miles was a further reception from 2 different DXers. So I can see that, right? That's one thing. So this is just off these. I haven't gotten down to the good stuff yet. This is just the top 6 counters here. You can do it by frequency, especially when we get into the big analysis project. By country, if you want to see information about what countries have been heard. State, this is the 2-digit abbreviation or 2-character abbreviation. So states, stations from North Carolina. There've been 2 submitted from 1 DXer. 252 miles was the furthest reception. So that is how those work. The DXer name, the station, and I think the country, it doesn't have to be an exact match. It just has to, like you saw here, I just typed in Lloyd and it found me. Now there are like 4 Davids. So if you just type in David, you're going to have everybody who's named David. Keep that in mind. But now let's scroll down. So here is your log. So this replaces that searchable log that we had. This is a searchable log. And you can also, because whenever you enter in here, it also filters this as well. So it's not just these boxes that are getting filtered, it's this as well. So I can search from here into the log. I can export this out into a spreadsheet if I want to. I can do it into a CSV, an Excel file, a Google Sheet. Those are my options to be able to have an export out of the data. This is helpful. Like Dennis was last year, lost his logbook, and we exported out his log for him of everything he had submitted to the frequency challenge, and he helped kind of rebuild his log a bit. Well, there you go. Same premise. Logs by DXer, so you can see the log breakdown by DXer. How many logs they've heard and the furthest reception that they've had. So you can see all that on this particular one. And all these tables can be exported out. I can export this one out too. Right? I can export this one. And you can also sort. So let's say I want to sort by miles here. You can do that, I think. Can't you? No, maybe not. The extra logs by state. Again, I can enter in Jacob here, and I can see how many states he's logged, what states has he logged. Here's the number that he's done. Okay. And here's all the different states that have been heard. And if you hover over a state, you'll see the log count. Right? Heard states by DX. So here's the breakdown again with furthest reception inclusive in there. Logs by state. So this tells you which states are producing during this particular opening or this challenge. Logs by country. So you'll see we've had 5 different countries heard. So if I go over here now, you'll see here's Lloyd's, US, Honduras, and I know it says Colombia here. That's what Google does with San Andres y Providencia. It shows it as Colombia. Can't do anything about that. That's a separate country for us. Here's heard countries by DXer with the mileage. Logs by country, right? And mileage. And then logs by station. So you can see which stations have been heard. Unique stations have been heard. Now, I'll say this now and also in advance of next week when we show you the full data analysis project. We're only as good as the data. Now, I'm going through and trying to clean up all the season data, but we're only as good as the data that's available. And then logs by frequency and logs by miles. So all of this data will be there for you every week. And in fact, if we go now to this week's challenge page, here's the 580 to 600 challenge. The new form has not gone live yet. We'll hear in a minute. You'll see there's already one log from Lloyd in here. So all of the stuff will be in here. As you guys fill it in, it's going to automatically update all that stuff for us. So very excited about this and really excited about showing you the full data analysis project next week because it goes into so many more layers that we did not show here. This is just for the weekly stuff. But when we dive into the full data analysis project, man, that thing is chock full of data to help you research the stations that can help you fill a hole in your logbook, target a state, target a country, whatever. All of that is going to be there for you. So very excited to share that. Of course, our patrons are already in there playing with that right now. Patreon.com/DX Central. So they already have access to that. So if you want to get early access and play around with the beta testing, by all means, go join up. It's about that time though right now.
DX Central Live Top of the Hour Alert.
Top of the hour time frame means we are looking for IDs on the AM band. And right now, let's go down to, let's start with our challenge frequencies, our brand new ones. We're on 580, 590, and 600 for our new challenge frequencies for the new week. So let's go down here and start at 580 and work our way up. We'll do 580 and 590 because 600 is the V3A, my local here. So let's start down here.
I understand what Bush was trying to do at the 70s. I was thinking to say this is not 1945. I don't think that we can export American values by force anymore. We don't have to plug the treasure ourselves. It's the best way to do it.
Charles asked if we're using Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is the backbone. So when you guys submit logs, everything goes to Google Sheets. But then for that dashboard that you're now seeing, all of that is through a different Google product called Looker Studio that I just found out about this week. I've been looking for a dashboard type solution ever since I started this frequency challenge, 4 years ago. I've been looking for exactly what I found this week. And my friend in ChatGPT, Skip, he helped me to flush it out and figure out all the nuances of it. And still doing some of that, and I'll be adding more stuff to it. But that is Looker Studio that you just saw with the dashboard embedded into a WordPress site, which is going to be what I do for my logbook, by the way. I'm about to redo my entire logbook. I can't wait. All right, time to shut up. It's go time.
Is an online
Stocking up. Every day, Americans are protecting their savings and retirement.
with physical cold. Don't wait for the headline. When the panic starts, it's too late. Call your capital now at 800-957-GOLD to get your free gold investment kit and protect your wealth with real physical gold protection. Over $8 billion in trusted transactions and thousands of 5-star reviews. Here is your trusted source. Call now and also get up to $15,000 in bonus gold with a qualified purchase. Call 800-957-GOLD. That's 800-957-4653. AM 58 Orlando, June, and Orlando turns first for breaking news. Traffic on 12. Listen on the WBO app,
History shows that every market fails, every currency collapses, and today, the dollar is...
All right, I know we went radio or mic silent there for radio silent. You can't say that on DX show. We went got a radio silent there for a second on the mic. We did have WDBO. Let me mute the SDR for a second. We had WDBO in there from Florida. So that's that Central Florida station that we heard, WDBO in Orlando. That's usually our dominant station on 580, especially if we're looking towards the south. There was a Spanish station underneath them, but I was hoping I could match up with like Colombia or Ecuador. Didn't work out. Checked 590 here. We have a country station kind of dominating here on 590, which is not usual. Usually 590 is Radio Música Nacional down in Cuba and then some. Like they boom in here, but not hearing them right now. Hearing a country station instead. So there's a couple of different candidates that could be. Most of those are new. So I'd be very interested in seeing who that might be. Is one of them, there is a station in Florida, the AFC in Clewiston, that is a country station. So let's see, maybe that might be them. That's new, baby! Ask and ye shall receive. Ha ha ha. Yeah. That was WAFC Clewiston. I mean, we just right on it. Let's see here. Let's go back. They're not on the East Super Loop. They're only on the CAS, Southern CAS. That's crazy. They're not even on the Super Loop, the East facing Super Loop, just on the Southern facing CAS. All right, that's a new one for us. Love that. Love when we get a new one here on the stream so we can share that with you guys. So don't get those too often anymore, but there it is. And I think that's number 1099 if I remember right. I have one more for 1100. Let's get it tonight. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about feedlines. Not a sexy topic, right? We talk about gear, radio, antennas, feedline. But feedlines are really, really important. And so we're going to talk about that. Also, so you guys are talking about the rumblings that we may have a DX test coming soon, or a couple of them. So I'll touch on that rumor as we get into our next hour here on DX Central Live. Don't go anywhere, my friends.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Airwaves playing loud and clear. Good DJs bringing cheer. Voice of gold up on the scene. Signal strong, just like a dream. Hear the jingle station name. DXers in the nightly game. Picking up that magic sound. On the hunt all around. Radio heroes in the sky. Let them frequencies fly. Sound calling far and wide. Good DJs never hide.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
The world they go, spinning records in a glow, tuning in with every dial. Catch those names and
it's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios.
Their voices
here in Mandeville, Louisiana. Studio A is where you'll find us right now, and a little later on, I'll be going back to Studio B and getting ready for our next podcast episode. So working on some goodies with that. Also in Studio B is where I'll be doing some work on something you're about to learn about here. First, I want to address a post that was put out by our friend Paul Walker on Facebook, and I think in a couple other places as well, talking about some DX tests that are coming up in the West Coast. And yes, this is true. This is absolutely true. So Paul is part of the Courtesy Program Committee, the CPC, as am I, and is a committee of people that are cross between the IRCA and the NRC that work collaboratively together to work with radio stations to try to schedule DX tests. And these DX tests are opportunities where after midnight, local time there at the station. They can operate even if they have to sign off at night, at sunrise or sunset. They can operate on their full daytime power and antenna pattern for an experimental period. That's what the FCC deems experimental period after midnight. So they can do things to like tune their transmitter and things like that. Well, there are these 3 radio stations out on the West Coast that are currently in the process of being sold. And the new buyer is someone that we have worked with in the past. The CPC has worked with in the past to do DX tests. So nothing I can share detail-wise for you now on what stations, where they are, or anything like that, because the sales are not finalized and legally they don't have control of the stations yet. So until that happens, we're kind of like sitting and waiting for the government and everything else and all the sales stuff to go through. But once that happens, you're looking at probably a 3 to 6 hour window of a DX test here, where it'll have tones, sweeps, off-hook noises, Morse code, all the stuff that you're used to from a DX test. These are full-fledged DX tests. So very excited to hopefully be talking about those here very, very soon once the sales go through. So if you see Paul Walker talking about that, now if you're seeing anything about specific stations and it's not coming from Paul or a member of the CPC, no, don't believe it, but Paul Walker is the guy who's actually helping to coordinate this with the new owner. So he is a good source of information. We'll be putting, once we can announce this formally, I'll be putting out the materials from the CPC itself to put out the announcement, and we'll be doing our usual live streams that we do for the events and all that kind of stuff. In addition, I guess I can talk about this now too. I am working on, in my capacity with the CPC, a couple of DX tests as well. Not in a position yet where I can talk about those just yet, because we still have some details to hammer out. But I also have a couple of DX tests that I'm working on from some of my contacts that I have in the industry. So I am very, very looking forward to being able to talk about those as well. So it looks like as we head into December, January timeframe, we're going to start getting back into some DX test stuff. And I want to continue that momentum. I'm really hoping we can keep that energy going because I love DX tests. I know you guys love DX tests. Even if it's a state you don't need, even if it's a station you already have in the logbook, it's still fun to do a DX test because it's just kind of fun. So a couple that we'll have on the West Coast, and then a couple that I'm working on here closer to the East Coast. So we'll hopefully have details to share on all of those, hopefully here pretty soon. All right, let's get to some of your shout outs here because you guys have a couple in here now. DXChallenges.com/shout out. That's where you go to get those shout outs in.
Shout out, hear the call for every signal, big or small, from AM to FM to C to C. We celebrate the ones who slag your ID. Shout out, let it be known, you're never DXing all alone. Through the static we found our way. Shout outs making waves today.
All right, shout out time. All right, we got Mr. Rick Dow. We've got Stuart up in Michigan, Jacob, Kaz. You guys are all on deck for this round. Again, if you haven't got your shout out in, you still have time. DXChallenges.com/shout out. Shout out. That's where you want to go. It's actually pinned to the top of the chat. So if you're in the chat, look at the top. You see the little white area that says DX Central? Yeah, that's the one. That's where you would go. Let's see here. Someone said, looking forward to them and unlikely to hear them. Don't say that. You never know. You never know. These DX, I thought from Charleston, South Carolina, there was no way I could hear Northwest Montana on a DX test, but damn if I didn't hear them loud on 880 underneath WCBS when I was in Charleston on the East Coast. I was able to hear a DX test from Montana under New York on the East Coast. Like I could almost throw a rock at the actual Atlantic coast from my house. All right, let's start with our friend Rick Dow. Hello, Lloyd. I'm out at my mom's farm west of Oakland, Iowa this week. It's the farm where I grew up and also where I did my first extensive medium wave DXing from May of 1988 to January of 91. I have 13 new stations added to the logbook here since Monday afternoon. 9 of those are graveyarders, and there are some dandy catches to report. 3 new loggings from Wisconsin, so some cheese cutting about to happen. WRCE 1450 in Richland Center, WBIZ 1400 in Eau Claire, right? Is it Eau Claire? See, I don't have the Midwest pronunciation. Cajun names I can do all day. Creole names I can do all day. The Midwestern stuff, you guys have weird stuff. WJMC 1240 in Rice Lake, all new. And I have my first Louisiana graveyarders from this QTHC report. Got your local on 1230 WBOK early Wednesday morning at 0739 UTC with call letters heard twice and a liner read by a male announcer. Love that station. Plus, thanks to a tip from Florida DXer Chris Dunn on the IRCA list server, got WJFK 1580 in Morningside, Maryland, running day power after sundown on Wednesday evening with Virginia Tech Hokies men's basketball. A productive week so far, and 2 more evening and morning sessions to go. Wish me luck. You got it, buddy. So first, we're going to do the cheese. Figured I was safe enough with Eau Claire that, you know, it's kind of Frenchish, right? And, you know, maybe that can kind of translate. I was like, I feel like I'm taking a safe swing on this one, but it was a swing nonetheless. Speaking of Cajuns and Creoles, you got that new Louisiana station, so we got to get you some of that gumbo, baby. And we got to saw some logs for you, my buddy. Rick's getting himself some logs. There you go, man. Isn't it kind of fun to go back to like where it all started for you, DXing wise, and kind of, especially nowadays with the new technology and everything, kind of redo it? I did that, was it 2 years ago when I was helping mom pack up there in Brasstown and moved down here to Louisiana. I brought my SDR with me, so I packed it up and had my laptop and everything. The only thing I wish I was DXing off of W6 LVP because obviously we had important things to take care of, and grabbing all of my gear to be able to put up like a DCAS or something wasn't on the list. But I do wish I could have done at least a couple of sessions there, you know, maybe a week or two with a good couple of DCASs, right? Looking up north, looking down south, looking out east, looking out west. That'd have been nice because those conditions there, when they were good, they were really, really good. So I have a week's worth of recording still to go through that I made on that magnetic loop, that W6 LVP loop. My last ones from there in Brasstown. So over time, I will slowly but surely get through those and be able to hopefully add to the totals from Brasstown. Coming up next, we've got Jacob, Airplane Engine in the chat. And Jacob says 5 new logs this week, 3 new logs thanks to this week's challenge. 910 KRIO, McAllen, Texas. 910 KINA in Salina. I remember that one. Kansas. And 920 WGKA, Atlanta, Georgia. 2 more with 1030 WGSF in Memphis, Tennessee, who is in with regional Mexican music under my local WCTS, and 1580 WJFK in Morningside. I missed that one. Who was clearly stuck on day power as they were owning 1580 with Virginia Tech basketball, thanks to a tip from Rick Dow for WJFK. I think that's when I was in the midst of all of my new dashboards work that I was just like, I saw DX stuff going on. I was like, I can't even think about that right now. Tables, charts. So we got new logs for our friend Jacob here. Let's go ahead and saw some of that for him. There we go. It's noisier now. When talking back to going back to where you started your DX, it's definitely noisier now. Way noisier now than it was 30 years ago. I mean, I used to be able to DX. I got KFI from North Carolina on a Kiwa Air Core loop that was sitting right next to me on a Drake SPR4. Could you do that today? Probably not. Probably not. No, not too much noise. Probably couldn't do that now. All right, well done, Jacob, my friend. Let's do next one. You have Stuart up in Michigan, and then we'll get to Kaz's nice haul here. Stuart, not too much DX happening here, probably due to having a busy week. Congratulations to those DXers who received more e-skip on FM earlier this week. Yeah, it's been kind of like there, right? Something to be said for that theory that maybe some solar stuff energizing meteor stuff. So we have a meteor shower going on. We have solar storms going on. The confluence of those is happening at the same time we're getting e-skip in November. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing here. I mean, there's clearly other things that are involved, but maybe there's something. New AM Skywave stations this week. Relevant Radio 1380 WWMI in St. Petersburg, Florida, 997 miles. Upstate Red 1330 WYRD in Greenville, South Carolina. That's Greenville. Yeah, they're 1330. 517 miles. What's the WORD 950 Spartanburg? That was my 1000th log from Mandeville. Was a city I used to live in. Well, I wasn't in Spartanburg. I was in Greer. Anyway, 1580 The Bet. Everybody got these guys. In Morningside, Maryland, 429 miles. Can someone call them and ask them to do that again? Just like forget to make the switch. Maybe this weekend, so I can test out the new vertical and add Maryland to the thing. Joy 1580 WWSJ in St. John's, Michigan, 3 watts at 63 miles. New low power record. 970. Ooh, here we go. WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota, 690 miles. Some new FM Tropo this morning for Stuart. Gold 93.7 QGR in North Madison, Ohio, 142 miles. Mix 94.1 WHBC in Canton, Ohio, 157 miles. News 95.7 WHIO FM in Pleasant Hill, Ohio, 145 miles. Thunder Country 105.5 WTHD in LaGrange, Indiana, 94 miles over a semi-local. The biggest news of the week, however, is that I traveled to a nature preserve in Clinton, Michigan on Monday morning, and after the peak of the Leonids meteor shower, and my TEF captured not one, but 2 RDS codes on its clearest frequency, which was a goal of mine. I confirmed one of them with a playlist match, and the other had more than enough info to positively log the station after looking them up in the WTFDA database. Unfortunately, neither of them are new states, as I've logged both these states during the e-skip opening in June 26th this year. And the stations were Easy FM 93.7 WOEZ in Burton, South Carolina, 695 miles. And 93.7 Bob FM WNOB in Chesapeake, Virginia, 565 miles. So goes to a quiet location, gets some meteor scatter. Look at that. I additionally set up an overnight audio recording on Sunday night with my DX286 at the location of my autologger in Dexter, Michigan. And even though I'm only 2.5 miles away from 91.7 WOM at 93 kilowatts of power, my radio still managed to receive a total of 10 unidentified pings on 97.7, which happens to be the clearest frequency on the dial. My goal for the Geminids meteor shower is to identify a meteor scatter station on 97.7 at my autologger's location. There you go, man. Well done. So we got some new goal achieved. I mean, number one, man, that was a goal. It was getting that frequency filled. 93.7. And got to those new logs. We're going to saw some logs for you, too. There you go, man. Well done, Stuart. Always good to see you in there. Another one of our wonderful patrons here at DX Central. And that brings us to our friend Kaz, Neil Kazaraz, up in Illinois, the brain behind the wonderful Kaz and DKaz antenna that so many of us, myself included, have used to pull in DX from places that we only dreamed about before. Well, let's see what the man himself is getting. So many new ones thanks to Auroral conditions. Yes, sir. When the band is open, my father used to say, the DX will be there. When the band is open, the DX will be there. And as long as you got yourself a quiet location, you've done enough to quiet down the location as much as you can, the DX will be there. My south antenna system also helps an end-fire phased array of 2 CAS antennas. That does do the trick. This is a bit better than a DCAS due to deeper and wider back nulls at a slightly more narrow beam. What's your spacing on those 2 CAS, by the way? 1299.7 Rebel Radio, a Chicago area pirate that has some ads and plays lots of hard rock. Nice. 1300 to be OAD in Jackson, Mississippi at 4 p.m. today, and soon to be clobbered by Pest WNQM. I would love. I don't want to start kind of picking off stations because as soon as we do that, like the band's going to just empty out. But there are a handful of stations that I would just love to just get me around them for a little while, and that's one of them, to be NQM. 1400 to be GTN in Georgetown, South Carolina, just up the road from my old home. Another graveyard distance record for him. 1400 was a nice graveyard frequency. 1050 to be BRG, Virginia, Lynchburg at 4 p.m. a couple of days ago. 1010 HJOP in Barranquilla, Colombia. Nice. 870 also in Barranquilla, HJAY under WWL. 1100 HJCN in Bogota, under HJAT Pest with BBN parallel stream. When you have one Colombian that's a pest and you get rid of that Colombian for another Colombian, that's a good day. It's a very good day. 830 HCRM2 Ecuador in Guayaquil. I'm going to guess here. Guayaquil parallel stream. 930 KLUP Texas, Terrell, Texas. Terrell. Way under semi-local WKBM parallel stream. 1470 to be MGG, Egypt Lake, Florida. Good with tropical music and an ID over under to be MBD. I'm so glad they got rid of their HD. 900 to be SWN in Belglade, Florida with Haitian format under KREH in severe aurora conditions. 1310 to be YND in DeLand, Florida. And 1090 OCU1Z, Tumbes, Radio Vision. Gloria, hallelujah, hallelujah. Finally logged parallel stream through QRM and 1100 KTEK, Alvin, Texas, with relevant radio. So my man Kaz got himself a haul. Well, we got a whole bunch of Latin Americans in there. I know that for a start. Two 60-foot Kaz antennas spaced 20 foot apart. You don't say. You don't say. Huh. Now you're giving me something to think about because I got to put my north-south Kaz back up. My, what is it? I think it's 350, 170, I think is what I have on this one. Pretty sure. No, is it? I mean, are they directly like parallel the entire? Or if I was to stagger, like one's over here, I'm sure that kills it. They need to be like directly parallel, right? Because I can do 20 feet. Oh man! Oh, you just gave me another project, Kaz. Oh, end-to-end spacing. I got it. Never mind. I don't have 140 feet. My bad. If I had 140 feet trust, I would be doing that this weekend. I'd be like, vertical, you can wait. All right. Well done, Kaz, man. Love seeing those Latin American stations coming in. DXChallenges.com/shoutout. You still got time if you want to get your shout outs in. We would love to get those in for you. Really quick, I wanted to touch on something that I saw on social media, as a lot of my topics usually come from social media or the Slack channel or whatever. You guys kind of talking amongst yourselves a lot of times. I'm in the background kind of lurking, and I'm like, ooh, topic. I saw one, a friend, Bob Tart, I think he's Michigan, right? On social media was talking about some DX he was doing, and he was trying to parallel a station on, I want to say it was 880 that was running sports in Spanish. And he was trying to parallel up to a couple of different live streams of the different stations, and like nothing was matching up. And so I wanted to mention really quick, because I don't think everyone, if you're not a sports fan, you might not know this. But when you have a program that is running a sports program, especially, it's more than often the professional sports, like NFL, MLB, NBA, those particular ones. They don't usually let their affiliates stream the sporting event on their stream. Now, some of them will sneak it in every once in a while, but traditionally they don't allow that because, like the NFL is an example. I know this because when I lived in South Carolina and North Carolina for all those years, I wanted to be able to stream Saints games on WWL from North and South Carolina, but I couldn't do it because the NFL was like, nah, you got to go over here and buy our audio streaming package from the NFL directly, and then you can listen to any streaming you want. And I was like, I don't want all those. I just want the one. I don't care about any other team except for the Saints. So I say this to say that when you're doing your stream comparisons, if you're trying to match up a live sporting event, and that sporting event is a professional football, basketball, baseball event, especially the U.S., but it can apply in other countries as well. Like I know England had this for a long time, and I think they still do. I'm not sure about a lot of the South American countries and what their rules are, but Central and South America. But I know in the U.S., professional sports, you're not going to find a match on the stream because they're going to have to run their normal programming content they would normally run on the stream, and then the broadcast is going to be the game. So how do you get around that? Well, if you're trying to match everything up, the best you can do is trying to find an online receiver somewhere near that station or the station you're thinking might be a potential target. Finding an online stream near that station and seeing if that matches up, because that's the best you're going to do. Because otherwise, the live streams more often than not is not going to match. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Whenever you're doing station stream parallels, and we're going to talk about that topic in general this season, and how to kind of use streams to match up, because there are some things you'll want to keep in mind. It's not always a slam dunk that just because the stream matched, that who you're hearing in the stream is the same. It's not always a slam dunk. There are times when that could be not the case. So we're going to talk about streaming and using websites to parallel for IDing stations in a later episode this season. But tonight, I want to do it for our next hour here. Two things. We're going to talk about feedlines, and then we're going to look at our challenge frequencies of 580, 590, 600 and identify some potential targets. Okay. So starting with the feedlines. So this is one of those things I think a lot of times a lot of people overlook when they're doing antenna installations, and some of our more technical and experienced antenna installers who are in the chat right now, feel free to chime in and join in. Correct if I say anything wrong, as you know, sometimes we'll do that. But like Jeff, Notorious, Kaz, you guys in there, feel free to chime in with your experiences and answer any questions that might come up that you feel comfortable with. The main thing you're wanting to make sure that you do when you have your feed line coming in is, you want to make sure, obviously, that it's either matched up with the impedance of the antenna. So if it's a 50 ohm feed line or a 75 ohm feed line, you're going to have probably some sort of matching that takes place between that feed line and your antenna, because most antennas are not 50 or 75 ohm antennas unless it's designed that way, and those are usually not the case, but especially at AM frequencies. But like a Kaz antenna, we're using a 16-to-1 transformer to match that antenna impedance to the feed line impedance of 50 or 75 ohms. So number one thing you want to do is pay attention to the ohm rating, especially the higher frequency you go. There's a little more forgiveness down low, and especially like medium wave frequencies, a little more forgiveness about that. But the higher in the frequency you go, the impedance is important. So keep that in mind. You're going to want to know what's your impedance of your antenna. Is it matched? Or do I have to be the one to match that up? Another thing you're going to want to kind of keep in mind is your feed line length. Especially, again, there's a little more forgiveness at lower frequencies like on the AM band, but the higher up you go, FM is included in this. You don't want those feed lines being super, super long. Now, I have some feed lines that are about 100 feet or so on FM. Okay. And that's about as much as I would probably do for an FM feed line. And even then, I'm using a low noise amplifier to overcome any losses that might be there in that feed line. And I'm using low loss feed line at that. I'm using a 75 ohm RG11 low loss feed line, a low noise amplifier to take over any losses that I do get. So I should be getting pretty close to a lossless experience from the antenna to my shack with a 100-foot run, even at FM frequencies. It should be pretty close. The higher, when you get up to like, VHF, UHF, ADS-B, like 1090 megahertz, that's where you're like, okay, I need this to be short. I'm talking short as you can get. I've got a 25-foot feed line of LMR 400 for my ADS-B, and I'm over here like, can I make that any shorter? Because I want that to be as short as possible. Because the longer you have a feed line, especially in those higher frequencies, the losses start really degrading the signal strength. And so when you start losing dBs, you start losing sensitivity, and those weaker signals that you're chasing after don't really come through as well. So when you're talking about feed lines, making sure you're matched up with your impedance between your antenna and your feed line, either because they are the same, or more likely you have some sort of transformer in line. And that could be one that you build yourself, or one that's part of a system that you're buying, or one that you would have to build, or have provided for you some way. The other thing to think about, especially if you're going to have it outside, is the longevity of that feed line. Now, all of my antennas I always buy, because I'm one of those people who I put it in place and then I either bury it directly, or I kind of put it into a groove or along a fence line or whatever, and then I let it, the ground and the grass and the leaves kind of take over and push it down. So I always get direct bury jackets. If you leave it kind of laying on top of the ground and then let the ground kind of sink it down eventually, just keep in mind in the interim that sometimes the critters do love to chew on feed lines, squirrels and rabbits and things like that. Here where I am, we have moles, so I have to keep that in mind. I have to check my feed lines every once in a while to make sure that nothing's getting into them, nothing's chewing on them, because that can be a problem. Connectors, another thing to kind of keep in mind. Especially at AM and lower frequencies, adapters from like an F connector to a PL259, things like that, your losses aren't super ridiculous. The higher in frequency you go, the more influential like an adapter will be. So try as best as you possibly can to get a feed line that has a connector that will match up with whatever you're feeding from your antenna to your radio as much as possible. There's never going to be a possibility at 100% of the time that you're never going to need an adapter. I got a bunch here because all of my feed lines are coming into a window panel that I built, and that window panel uses bulkheads of SO239s, every one of them. Now, I do have some N bulkheads that I just recently picked up that I'm going to swap out for some of those for like my ADS-B and stuff like that to, again, reduce some of my losses, but all of mine are SO239, so even like my F connections, my BNCs, all that kind of stuff, I'm using adapters. Most of that's for FM or AM. The losses aren't too bad, especially on the AM, but keep that in mind. You're going to want to try to minimize your use of adapters if you can. The lower the frequency of what your antenna is covering, the less of important that is. Okay. Let's talk about types. If you're using a 50 ohm feed line, and you'll also want to kind of keep in mind the impedance of your radio. Most of them are able to accept 50 to 75 ohms, no problem, which for AM or FM DXing, you can usually kind of, especially on the AM side, you can go either way. On the FM side, you can get a little bit of loss if it's a 75 ohm and then use a 50 or vice versa. So I try to keep all that consistent on the FM. All of mine are always 75 ohm from the antenna all the way to the radio. Everything in line is 75 ohm straight all the way through. On AM, I usually try to keep it 50 ohm. That's just what I have. I have RG8X for my feed lines for my AM antennas. They have the PL259 connections that go into my transformer boxes that I have, where I have a SO239 and then my SO239 on my window panel. My 75 ohms for my FM are all F connectors. I don't like that, but that's what they are. I hate F connectors. I hate F connectors, but that's what they are. If I had my way, everything would be BNC. BNC for everything. Everything would be BNC. But I don't have my way. Also, when you're doing your feed lines, keep in mind anything that you have. Like for me, everything outside comes to a window panel. And then on the other side of that window panel is the other side of those bulkheads. Now I need another feed line jumper to go from that window panel to my radio or the amplifier or whatever it is. And if I do have something in between that window panel and the radio, now it's another jumper that I need to get. So now we're adding that length onto whatever feed line we have outside. So keep that in mind as well. You want these to be as short as possible. So when you are running those feed lines, you want to keep in mind your connectors. You want to keep in mind any jumpers that you might need because of things like amplifiers or high-Z bias T-boxes like what we have here. This is the antenna side, which is an F connector. And then over here I have a B and C for going to the radio. So I'm going to need an adapter to go B and C to SMA because guess what? I'm running SMA to my radios. So those are the kinds of things you want to think about. 70. So again, 50 ohm, I generally use RG8X. It's a nice, I can use a low loss version like I get from, Gigaparts. It's AMR, ABR is who I usually get my RG8X from. Low loss, direct berry jacket. It works great. On the FM side, and VHF to an extent, it's RG11. I use the gel flooded RG11 coax. It's really, really stiff, but it stands up very, very well. And I usually try to get the ones that have like the little, two things. One, there's a little rubber plastic hood that goes over where the connection is. So that gives it some waterproofing. And then I also like the ones that has like the knurled knob on there so I can screw it in a little bit easier because I hate F connectors. And normal F connectors have those really just, it's not fun screwing those in, especially into like amplifiers and things like that. So I like the ones that have like the knurl knob on there that I can really kind of dig my hands into. Some other things you're going to want to consider for feed lines. Coax is not the only thing that you can do. You can also do, as we have here with our vertical antenna, our friend Jeff, Notorious B.O.G, he uses twisted pair for his, coming from that amplifier box all the way back to his shack. Jeff has also recently been doing some conversion of using Cat5, Cat6 Ethernet cable for his feed lines, for his receivers going out to like his bogs and things like that. And that's something that I'm keenly interested in because here's one of the reasons why that's actually a really, really good idea. We talked last year about common mode chokes and why you need to have that, because basically a coax feed line actually has three conductors. There's your center pin, there is your ground, right, which has an inner and an outer surface on it, right? And so one of those surfaces gets connected to your shield, the shield. The other connection for your antenna would go to like the center pin. So you have one center pin connection, one going to your shield. Well, there's another surface on that shield that's not connected to anything. It just picks up noise really, really well. So we talked about common mode chokes and how you would use those to get rid of noise or reduce it down. Well, with a twisted pair, you don't have that problem. With a twisted pair or a Cat5, Cat6 Ethernet cable, that's not a problem because you're going to have two solid copper wires, one going to one part, one going to the other part of your antenna. You bring that back, and that's all you got. And you can connect that. You can even put that onto like an SO239 connector or whatever, because then you've got one going to the shield, one going to the center pin. Boom, you're done. And you've completely eliminated any of that stuff that you might have from that third conductor on your shield. So it kind of removes the need to have a common mode choke, maybe, to a point. So something that I'm going to be taking a look at, actually. There's actually a video that our very, very famous DXer up in Canada, Steve, VE6WZ. He actually has a video that I'm going to link here. Why not use
Cat6? Ether.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Steve I keep doing that. 3E6WZ. This is his video here where he talks about using Cat6 versus coax for receive antenna feed lines. And he actually talks about, like, when you're doing that, here's what to look for. Don't get this kind. So it's not a good kind of Cat 6. Get this kind, especially if you're buying in bulk from like Amazon or whatever. So trust me, I am investigating this as a possibility that I might be doing here pretty soon. And then I would put that PL259 on one end so I can plug it into my window panel. And now I've eliminated the need for freaking coax and common mode chokes and stuff because I've reduced my noise. So I'm definitely considering that. Kaz says I prefer BNC to SMA. Yes. BNC. If I had my way, I don't know why we started doing SMAs, all the SDRs. Everyone should have just gotten together in a room and said BNCs are far better, right? You just and you're done, and that's it. And it's not going to pull off. Like it's not going to pull off of the connector. You don't have to sit there and screw it on, and sometimes you have a hard time getting that seat on and you actually screw down. I hate F connectors with everything inside of me. I hate F connectors. So this is something I'm thinking about, especially for my AM antennas. I haven't really looked into what the effect would be on FM, but for my AM antennas, this is what I'm thinking about. And you can do some long runs. So, and the losses are minimal, minuscule, tiny little losses. So I'm highly considering trading out my feed line for Cat 6. I might play with it a little bit on some of these antennas that I have that I rotate around and see how it does. So I'll let you guys know. But those are some things to think about. So I say all this to say it's one of those things that we don't give a lot about into our shack and our antenna system is the feed line. But it can make a lot of difference with noise, with signal strength. You want to make sure those things are isolated so they don't become part of the antenna. I've had that happen where it completely changes your antenna pattern. And now you think you're going to be looking down south, but you're actually looking to the north as well because you got this antenna feed line that you didn't really do a lot of consideration into. And now it's part of your antenna and picking up signals and feeding that back in. So things like that. So yes, when you're doing your antenna work or you're trying to find ways to eliminate noise, give some consideration to your feed lines, considering impedance mismatches. Are you mismatched? Should it be 50 ohms and it's actually 75 or whatever, or vice versa? Do I have a good match to my antenna? Looking at what kind of feed line do you want to have? Do you want to have a Cat 6 or a twisted pair, or is that coax going to be the better solution for you? And if you are going to look at coax, okay, how do I get rid of the common mode noise? How are my connectors looking and all that kind of stuff? So just some things to kind of think about as you're putting together your antenna system or trying to upgrade it, trying to improve upon it, because that's something we should always be doing, is looking for ways to improve upon our setup, to reduce noise, increase signal strength, and get that DX that we're so desperately looking for. So something to keep in mind. So I'm going to start looking at this Cat 6. I was kind of like, I have to replace all my feed lines, and I'd have to figure out a whole way to get in through the window and everything. But I'm seriously considering this. I might try it out with a couple of my antennas that I have in line right now. But I'm seriously considering that, because if it would reduce the noise that much and give me nice, low loss, good connections, everything's cool, that's the way to go, man. All right, that's just some basic stuff. We'll do some more. We'll probably do a video on feed lines here on the channel at some point. But at least we're going to kind of touch on it here for the episode tonight. All right, now we're getting close to the next top of the hour, and I want to do some DX. We're going to also take a look at our challenge frequencies here and see what we have available to us. So let's pull up our handy dandy map that we have here in Jaguar, and let's look at this together. So boom, here we go. Let me... Oh, it didn't do it, did it? Because I did it with the top of the hour. That's why. Okay. That's fine. So here is our handy dandy map for our first frequency we're going to look at here, which is 590. And I always look first down south, down into Central and South America, and see what's here for us. And then we'll look at some domestic stuff, because that can really depend on where you are. But as I guess the stuff down south can too. But some good targets here for us here down south on 590, or let me go to 580 first. So a couple of targets here. There's one here in Brazil. I mentioned it because it's 50 kilowatts, and a lot of us are looking for Brazil. So this could be a target to look for. Radio Relogio. We used to have a station on 1290 that had a really nice offset out of Brazil. It was right up in here. Radio Timbira. It was right around this kind of little jut out here on the eastern fringe of Brazil. And so when I was on the East Coast, man, it was nice because it stuck out like a thumb. It was on this really nice offset. It was nice and clear. Well, it's gone. But I don't think people really think about how far east Brazil actually is. I mean, all of Brazil, and I'm pretty sure I'm safe in saying this, all of Brazil is either to the east of the contiguous, like the lower 48, or most, like you might have this little clip over here in the Amazon right here that might be up there around Maine is and things like that. But almost the entire United States is west of Brazil. Okay. So that's why when we see these logs of Brazil, it's usually up here because they're the only ones that are far enough east to really have a decent shot at Brazil most of the time. That's not to say that the rest of us can't hear Brazil, because we can, but it's going to be a lot harder because you have to overcome diagonal distance, and diagonal distance is a lot when you're talking about Brazil because it just keeps going so far east. I mean, down here into like Buenos Aires, Montevideo, yeah, you got some distance here, some diagonal distance, but it's not like detrimental necessarily. Over here, yeah, this is pretty rough to overcome. So 580 has a nice Brazilian 50 kilowatts down here to try for. There's also Radio Union in Ecuador, and I thought maybe we might have had them earlier, but they weren't in. 10 kilowatts. This one does get out pretty well, especially during auroral conditions. Radio Nica, 580 out of Cali, 50 kilowatts in Colombia. This one gets out pretty well. I've heard them here. They do get out pretty nicely. This is a big one, especially for our East Coast folks. WKAQ in San Juan, Puerto Rico. When I was in Charleston, this was a nightly visitor in Charleston. So I know if you're anywhere up and down the East Coast, you've got a shot at this one here, to be KAQ in San Juan, Puerto Rico. If you don't have them already, this is one you should definitely be trying for. Inland a bit further, that is a good one to try for Puerto Rico because they do have a pretty good signal with their 10 kilowatt daytime signal. And I think it's 10 kilowatts night as well, isn't it? No, it's 1 kilowatt a night. Nope, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, it's 10. It's 10 day and night. So, yeah, you can have a really good shot at Puerto Rico here on 580 if conditions are appropriate and you got a good antenna beaming down southeast. There is a Rebelity outlet here on Cuba, in Cuba, but I haven't heard them. They don't get reported a whole lot. And the Cuban dial right now is in a state of I don't know what's going on. So give it a shot. You might have a shot at them, but Radio 580 here in Managua, they do get out. Even at 1 kilowatt, they do get out. We do have a station here in Mexico, Radio Cañon, XEAV in Guadalajara, 10 kilowatts. That does get out as well. This is one that I'm looking for this week, is this 1 kilowatt Mix FM in Cancun, XEYI. I don't know how I haven't heard them yet, but they're on my list. As we get further into, there's one other one here. This is why I haven't heard the Cancun. La Ranchita del Aire in Piedras Negras, XELRDA. 5 kilowatts, but man, do they get out. So that's a good one to try for if you're looking for something out of Mexico, is 580 XELRDA. As we get further into the States here, you heard WDBO earlier in Orlando. If you have a good southern night, that's a good one to try for. WELO in Tupelo gets out pretty well. I heard them when I was in Charleston, as well as this was the big one, WGAC Augusta. Almost everyone in the Southeast is probably going to hear them. I don't know how I have it yet, but we're going to try for them this week. KJMJ here in Alexandria, Radio Maria, they do get out pretty well, which is, again, probably why I haven't heard Augusta yet, because they always kind of take over. WHP here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and WCHS in Charleston, West Virginia. When I lived in Charleston, those two got out very, very well. You probably already have them East Coasters, but if not, those are two really good ones to try for. CFRA here in Ottawa. There's another one that I did here every once in a while when I was in Charleston. CKWW in Windsor. I've never heard them. And now I know why. I'm 500 watts. Okay. WTCM here in Traverse City, Michigan. Never heard them before, but I would love to. Maybe if we get that north-south CAS up and running, we get it north facing, we can try for that one. Urbana gets out pretty well. If I remember correctly, when I was in Charleston, I heard them there. Looking out west, KMJ in Fresno. That's your big one. When I was down in Lake Forest, they came in quite a bit. Another one out west that I really would like to get in here, KUBC out of Montrose, Colorado. That's one that I have on my list. Obviously, KIDO out of Idaho, out of Nampa. Anything in Idaho is on my list. I promise you that. So a couple of different targets there that you can try to kind of shoot for here on 580. How are we doing on time? It's top of the hour, so we'll do some of this in the next hour here as we get looking at 590 and 600. So let's go to the top of the hour alert.
DX Central Live Top of the Hour Alert.
We're going to take this back to 580. I know we already did that last hour. Let's take it back here to 580 and see, are we still hearing the same stuff or have conditions changed? Noise is starting to come in now. You can see that over here on the right. There you go, Rick. I miss Bill. I miss Bill and the sirens, man. I mean, I got this guy right here. A little red siren. I got that because of Bill. As an homage to our friend Bill. I hope he's doing okay. I do miss seeing Bill. All right, we got a music station in here on 580. And probably WDBO still in here. Let's take a quick gander at 590. Probably sit on that one for the top of the hour since we did 580 last hour. I can now mark AFC as a log station. Yay! Okay, so that's not Cuba. If I had to guess, this is either going to be Sabrosita or La Mejor. Let's take a gander. I'm going to go Mike mute. That's exactly what the Sabrosita XEPH down here in Mexico. That's exactly what I thought that was. So where last hour we had Lewiston, Florida was kind of on top with the country music on this same antenna that we're on right now. Now this hour, Mexico's on top. As night goes along, conditions are going to change, man. I love it. Love it, love it. Let's look at 600 and go ahead and get the V.O.G out of the way.
For the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son.
But
the honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son.
If we come down here to our SDR that we have down here waiting, our SDR Sharp with our Southeast CAS antenna.
He does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life.
We can get rid of them and see what's underneath. Texas is pretty common here. Tyler, Texas. Nicaragua. La Nueva Radio. Yeah. Mesa Mike says something on 580 in Spanish. Let's take a look at that here in a sec. Mesa Mike's website came through again for us this week with our new data analysis project. Woo. Oh, wow. Look at that big gap of dead air there on 870 that I just missed. Oh, wow. Let's just go up here to the live stream for La Nueva Radio Ya. And if you're wondering why do I say it like that, because that's what the guy says. The imaging guy. That's how he says it. And it's fun to say. I think they're one of the ones that do.
Guatemala, el reo Carlos Coy de 20 años murió al
Yeah, they have a live studio, usually video that with their on air.
Del penal. La información desde Bolivia, un adolescente.
That's one of the things about that station. They love their laser sweeps, man. When they do stories like news and sports and stuff in between.
Sin identificar que le propinaron.
You hear that and you're like,
por presunta
it's Nicaragua.
Una camiseta de un equipo de fútbol. En Estados Unidos, un ejemplar original de la primera edición de Superman fue subastado en $9.12 millones de dólares este 20 de noviembre, marcando un hito histórico en el mercado global de cómics y afectando a coleccionistas.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and unmute my Kiwi. Not the Kiwi.
Mañana sábado, la temperatura en Matagalpa, 28 grados centígrados las máximas.
I don't hear her in there. Oh yeah, Jaguar recorder to the rescue. Let's see what we had here on 870. Let's hope that was still running at the time. Oh, it is still right now. Yeah, let's go to 870. Let's just for giggles.
You have allowed them back in it.
Oh, it was. That's why, because there was a sporting event.
Pelicans just won't guard. Tap. In the third.
To progress.
Or schedule to providing every seat at Oxford.
Indiana. And it's 77:38 left.
Nothing. If it had been there, there would have been. It would have most likely been Cuba, Rello, or something like that. I'm using my Vactrol to get rid of the domestics.
Mangueras, una cuadra al este. Loco, te cambia la vida. Luz de
I don't have her in there. Oh, yeah, she is. There she is.
Tacito, el sorteo será el martes 23 de diciembre
There she is.
Para tu paladar, 100 años. Y al Banco Central. Gutiérrez Pro. 3106.
Go back and forth.
Danos en nuestras 4 tiendas. Recordá.
Yeah, I don't hear her now. They were in there for a second. Nicaragua was, so that'd be our second one on the 600 for the challenge so far. Let's go back to our map here and take a look at some more stations that we can try for here. So we looked at 580. Let's look at 590 here. So we know about a couple that we have as options. Let me just take a look down here. There's a 50 kilowatt in Brazil here on the far southeast coast there. So if you think you can stretch it, go for it. Especially you bog and beverage folks, you should have a shot at some of these. Bethel Radio in Colombia, Medellin. I'm sorry. Bethel Radio Colombia in Medellin, 50 kilowatts. This is one I don't have here. I would love to get, but I've not been able to get that far south on this frequency yet because of Sabrosita that we heard earlier out of Mexico. And then with them or Radio Música Nacional, it's kind of like, going through the Gibraltar Straits. You have to get through that to get down here to Colombia. Well, you can't get through these two. It's just kind of beating you up. KLBJ, every once in a while I hear them. Usually on 590, it's Kentucky. It's Lexington VLK. The VLK is typically the station that we do hear the most on 590 here from New Orleans area. WDWD is another one that I would like to get. I don't know how I haven't heard them yet, but they would be one that would be nice to add. KXSP up here in Omaha, up around Rick's Way. I've heard them before. It's not very common, but they do get out every once in a while here. Out west, what's common for you guys out west? I don't even know. Charles, if you're still in the chat, I mean, what are you guys usually hearing on 590? Is it Spokane, maybe? Utah? I don't remember if I had anything on 590 when I was in Lake Forest. Or what it might have been. Maybe it was this one, KTIE, maybe? San Bernardino, maybe? I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head. CJCL is one here, the fan here in Toronto. For a lot of our East Coasters are going to be kind of the dominant station. It's going to be either them or Kentucky. I would love to get Ontario. We don't see Canada here very often, so that would be a nice one for us. 600. The MT here in Iowa gets out very, very nice. I thought KOGO out of San Diego would get out more than it did when I was on the West Coast, but I mean, it gets out, but I thought it'd be more prevalent. What's this one up here in Vancouver? 50 kilowatt CKSP. I bet they get out pretty well. Is this one up here in Saskatoon pretty common? Jacob and our Midwest folks. They're part of the country folks. CJWW here in Saskatoon. I've never heard them. Some other ones that you can probably try for on 600. WSJS, I know they used to get out pretty well out of Winston-Salem. I haven't heard them here yet, but I know they do. WBOB in Jacksonville, another DX test veteran here for us. They get out, as does WREC in Memphis. I heard them when I was in Charleston, so I know they get out. Down south, down this way, there's a couple scattered here in Mexico. Nothing too crazy. Your big ones, though, are La Nueva Radio Ya out of Nicaragua. You can go to their website, and I'll put that here in the chat. So this is La Nueva Radio Ya, and that is their live stream. So if you're trying to match up, that's a good way to do it. Listen for the big sweeps and the lasers and all that kind of stuff. They love their sound effects, as we do here too. Radio Libertad in Barranquilla, 50 kilowatt Colombia. That's one I'd like to be able to pull in, but have not yet done so. Don't see anything else here on 600 down south too much. There is a Puerto Rican, I think it's a lower powered, 5 kilowatt WYEL. That could be a target. But yeah, I think normally it's WMT, WREC, KTBB. I forgot about them here in Tyler. I don't know about you guys in the Midwest, like Earl up here in Missouri, Sean over in Illinois. If you guys, my Boot Crew North, I'm sure you hate these guys as much as I do. KTBB in Tyler, Texas. Invariably, I finally get rid of my local V3A, which a lot of you should be able to hear. KTBB is always like right there, like just okay. And then when I don't have them, it's to be REC. It's one of those two, again, kind of blocking me from getting much else. But every once in a while, WMT will show up. I think I remember right, WCAO here in Baltimore gets out pretty well too, if I remember right. My time on the East Coast. So, yeah, those were some of the options that we have this week for us. So, a handful of good DX targets down south, and I'm trying to remember what the numbers were from our big frequency analysis. I want to say it was 19. I want to say it's 19 stations in the U.S. No, it's 23. It's 23 stations in the U.S. that are available on pretty much all three of these frequencies. So each frequency has about 23 stations. I want to say it's 21 states, 22 states on each one, and like between 4 and 8 countries on each one that are available that have been heard and reported during our frequency challenge year. So there's some stuff here, but there's a lot of opportunity for us to kind of catch up here. This is one of those frequency ranges where we don't have a lot of coverage. We're at about 70, maybe 80% tops on each frequency, which sounds good, but most frequencies were in the 90 to 100% range. So we definitely have some room in here where we can do some damage here. 580, 590, 600. And obviously that also does include any of those European 9 kilo or other continent 9 kilohertz splits in between. Those count. But 580, 590, 600 are our frequencies for the week. And I think I have to go I just realized I have to go fix the form because I don't think I fixed the frequency ranges on there. Yeah, the frequency drop down. Mike just comes over and tells me the drop down menu. I just thought of that right before he said that. So we're going to go do that right now and then go to do some more DX. So, my friends, for all of our patrons, thank you. Because of you patrons, patreon.com/DX Central, because of our patrons and their support, we just upgraded our servers and our hosting packages on the challenge website and all those others to make for a speedier and more reliable experience. So thank you to our patrons. Your support already is paying off. You just upgraded all of our website stuff across the board. So thank you. To our sponsors, the National Radio Club, nationalradioclub.org, the Spectrum Monitor magazine, thespectrummonitor.com, and the International Radio Club of America, IRCAonline.org. Thank you to our sponsors. Your support and helping to promote the work that we do here at DX Central, getting the word out about the challenges and some of the other things that we do has been instrumental in helping us grow and do some of the things that we're doing now, the fun stuff that we're doing. So all of your support, our patrons, our audience members, our sponsors, all of you are a big part of the success that we've had here at DX Central, and I can't wait to see that continue on because we've got some big stuff in store. This episode will be dropping on the podcast this weekend. If you want to take DX Central with you on the go and have DX Central live as you rake leaves or work on antennas or, clean windows or whatever it is you have going on this weekend or this week, we'll be there with you. For all of us here at DX Central, my friends, Studio A and Studio B folks, and our friends in Studio C, we'll see you next week, my friends. Take care. 73 Best of DX.
This has been the DX Central from the Static Podcast. If you are interested in sponsoring this podcast, let us know by emailing sponsors@fromthestatic.net. If you have a story to share for our Stories from the Static series, send those to our email address, stories@fromthestatic.net. Be sure to join us for our live DX live stream every Friday night at 2345 UTC, 1845 Central Time on our YouTube channel or at dxcentrallive.com.
The DX Central From the Static podcast is copyright 2025, Lloyd Van Horn, DX Central. All rights reserved. No portion of this podcast may be rebroadcast or reused without the express, written authorization of Lloyd Van Horn and DX Central. Be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, as new episodes will be posted regularly. Join us next time for the DX Central From the Static podcast.